This podcast and every other podcast I make is supported by Patreon. Patreon supporters got a slightly extended version of this particular episode, which I also do want to note before we go any further, may contain some very, very slight minor spoilers for God of War Ragnarok as it relates to FREYA. Pretty early game stuff though. Otherwise, Patreon supporters get extra content including unedited Q&As, ad-free episodes of the podcast including audio versions, they are now exclusively on Patreon, and the personal satisfaction of knowing that you are helping a very independently run selection of video game podcasts. So if you want to support, click the link in the description below. Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of Video Game Voice Acting 101. I'm Alanah. This is Danielle! We're here in person!
This is very exciting.
It's very cool.
We can actually be in the same room together. That's actually something to make a note of. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's still weird though.
It does feel weird. When you ask...
I mean, this isn't weird.
No, you're not weird.
Thank you.
I feel like we're not weird together. I mean, but now it's getting weird.
I felt like at the Ragnarok rap party, it was the most people I'd been around in a conversational capacity in a really long time. And I was like, I don't know if I know how to do this.
Yeah.
It's a little bit strange still, but it's nice.
Yeah.
To not do it over Zoom. We live in the same city. Why would we?
It's so fantastic. And I got to meet the famous Banjo that is, I mean, he is the
he is
dog
here and
of
you'll
the internet.
probably hear him.
The dog of the internet,
He's a
guys.
good boy. For anyone who doesn't know you, who are you?
Well, my name is Danielle Bisutti. I've been kicking around this town for quite some time, doing some TV, doing some film, and recently, actually back in 2014, got a very special audition to do an interactive video game. And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. You know the story, right?
Yeah.
I feel like everyone does.
I'll tell it again.
I'll give the Cliff's Notes, because it's like, all right, we've heard it, Danielle. All I thought of was Avatar or Gollum. I'm like, yeah, the dots on the face and the suit. That's cool.
You're partway there.
Yeah, it was like part with Banjo. That's really cool. And I love these universes, like growing up, like watching like fantasy and sci-fi. I was like, thinking I was a fairy and everything. I'm like, yeah, I can embrace this. Got the audition, got the sides. It was very like Shakespearean soliloquy, like Queen, like Lady Macbeth meets like Khaleesi, Lady Stark. I was like, yes. And God smiled on me that day because I got cast as FREYA in God of War. And I'm being very sincere. Like it has been an absolute game changer in my life for many reasons, not just to be in one of the most celebrated video games for obvious reasons. It's just really a masterpiece. It's a piece of art. But
it's fine.
We're kind of fans.
All this God of War shit that I have everywhere. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. Danielle doesn't like Sony Santa Monica. She never mentions them in a tweet.
Never.
I'm like, oh my God. Like now they know why I got cast as FREYA. Cause like when I like love you and you're in my life, like it's a lot. Like I'm Italian. So like my ability to love is pretty big.
That makes sense. It's the character.
I think Corey somehow got a sense that I was right for her, because as I've been playing her all these years, it feels like my life has been lockstep with her. Like there's a simpatico sort of synergy that's happened in my personal life where I've been able to channel into what the brilliant writers have written for her. And it's been a real blessing.
The time somebody killed your son.
There's that time where I offered my life to my imaginary son, and he almost
you got locked in LA for a while.
I did.
It's crazy.
I was quarantined.
Technically, that one's correct. Yeah,
I was relegated in Midgard, although it was Brentwood. Is a little nicer, well, kind of nicer than Midgard, but still kind of shitty during that time.
Yeah, it was a lot. But directly related to that, I'd love to ask, so you didn't really have a grasp of what video game acting was. Was there anything about jumping into that you just totally didn't expect, or like something that, like a memory that really stood out to you as a unique challenge that's really specific to video games?
That's a great question. You should do this for a living.
I wrote it myself.
Look at this lady. I had never done a voiceover prior to that.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I take that back. There was one voiceover that I got, and I am actually allowed to say this because they gave me credit. I am sometimes the voice double for Elsa.
No way.
Disney's Elsa.
Whoa.
I've been doing it since 2010.
Whoa.
I wasn't allowed to say anything.
What does a voice double mean?
Well, for example, in the video game Dreamlight Valley, I voiced her. So they're not always like Idina's like off on Broadway being fabulous. They're like, let's call in the Joe Bag of Donuts version, the poor man's version of Idina. Aww. But you know what? I'll tell you what, being able to be Elsa and FREYA in a lifetime is just like, all the magic that comes through.
Two very, very Good women.
They're powerful women.
I was going to say powerful,
And
but it seems cliche. Good's
it
worse,
does
though.
good. Well, yeah. And also just like leading with a sense of self and fully embracing oneself, but not just like that sexuality that sometimes can be the thing that, the trope of how a woman would lead or would present first. Like, I think that
they are both very unique. I don't think either of those characters is tropey, which has got to be a blessing as an actress, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's not shaming that aspect. Like, it's lovely being a woman. I mean, I love wearing these hot pink lips, but it's like, I don't want to be, relegated to just the hot pink lips. Like, there's so many facets, and obviously, so
there are red lips.
There are
nude.
Just so like there's the lip balm.
It's
look at you. Look how pretty. No, come on, you're so gorgeous. But what I love is like you have no lipstick on. She just put a little bit of lip balm, and she's like fabulous. I'm like, it took me an hour. Like,
thanks. Well, my hair's a fucking mess, but my problem is I'm lazy.
I doubt that
about makeup.
You are hardworking, like,
yes,
forced to be reckoned with.
But I think that's why is like, I am always like, I would love to put makeup on and look beautiful every day and feel beautiful every day, but I have so much shit to do.
Yeah, I get it.
And I'm like, maybe one day I'll be that person.
Totally.
I started getting facials recently, and I'm like proud of myself.
Good. Yeah, your skin is lovely.
Thank you.
So I totally relate with that, being super busy, because now I've gotten into writing and producing and whatnot. So that I'll just like not take off certain aspects of makeup.
Sometimes I don't take my eyeliner off.
Yeah, don't take it off, and then the next day you're like, phew. Don't have to do that.
I do that all the time. I have my eyebrows tattooed so that I don't have to do them.
See, my girlfriend does that as well.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a separate podcast.
Gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. Voiceover acting.
Yeah.
So I had just done that, and that was a really beautiful gift. And then, but this was like interactive. So performance capture, right? And I sometimes will be on Twitter and say, actually, this is full performance capture. And it's okay to say voice acting, because there are elements to God of War, both games, where we were in the booth. And especially a lot of the times when like, you're just like traversing a mountain or walking through, a door. Like,
I need you to just grunt a bunch in a room.
Yeah. And sometimes it's expositional. And I was nervous about a lot of that, because some of the exposition was very touching, like learning about Calliope and talking about my background, my backstory. So in the booth, and also being a singer and having that in my background, didn't feel very, I don't know if intimidating is the word. It felt like a natural extension of what I had known. The thing that's a disadvantage, of course, in the booth is that you're not here with a person. Like the energy we have here is so much different than when we're on a Zoom, is so much different than when I'm in the booth. And God love you, Matt Sophos. You do a great Kratos, but you are he's not Chris Judge.
I like her as Kratos now.
I just love Matt. And and we would laugh about like Matt is Brock. Matt could be Mimir. Matt was like Sunny. I mean, he would. So, but
the reference Matt Sophos, I believe, is lead writer,
head writer,
or Rich, his narrative director.
Yes.
So, Matt is lead writer.
No, I think it's the inverse.
Is
I think it's reversed.
Oh God.
Well, either way, they're both brilliant.
They're both very important to God of War and wonderful people.
I love those guys so much.
Me too. Huge fan.
I mean, like what they gave Freya. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so being a voiceover, so. Yeah, so it was like, all right, I've got to, look, I studied the theater, which Chris Judge always gives me a hard time about. And I always say that, so he knows. Yes, he always would be like, oh, the theater actress. I'm like, but you know what? I got to like understand a character from like on a cellular level. Yeah. That worked for me. I'm not saying people that aren't in the theater can't do that, but like voice and movement class, how does the character move? Voice class, where does their voice sit? Like based on their past, like, let me understand. They're not all going to walk and sound like me when you're building a character from the inside out.
When you're in a VO booth, do you feel like you are positioning, like, is your posture a conscious decision when you're giving a performance as well? Like, are you 100%. Like, you're still trying to stand like the character?
100%.
It's your whole body going through that.
Oh yeah. And in fact, so if I do a character that's like sort of a formidable, like CEO, I have to be in like high heels and they'll be like, Danielle, the coverage isn't on you. Like, I'm like, no, you don't understand.
That makes sense.
I need to be in this body position to feel her.
Interesting.
So Freya, obviously I was like flats and always like in like, stretchy pants because I was like moving a lot, as Freya does. But yeah, so the VO booth for me was a lot of like when you're, on a blank stage and you're sort of in this vacuum and you have to sort of create visually what you're seeing, sonically what you're hearing, like, and it feels a little bit like magic. It's almost like on a porous level, you're like sort of absorbing the energy, but also creating that world. That's what it's like for me. And thank God I had someone like Matt Sophos, who, albeit wasn't all of these characters, but understood these characters so deeply.
Yeah.
He knew how to give me those lines.
Yeah.
So where sometimes I wouldn't hear Chris's voice, I heard Chris's voice.
Yeah.
And we've been and we've been doing it so long where
you could hear Chris's voice.
I know it. Yeah. Cause we know these characters now. We're so integrated. Now, performance capture is a different thing, right? Because it's a lot of technology and like computers, like on your person.
It seems uncomfortable.
It can be after a while. Like there were times where I just had to take that helmet off because I could feel the compression in my spine. It was no joke. I mean, Sony's very sensitive about all that.
Yeah.
You know, you take the pack off, 15, 20 minute break, take the pack off, take the helmet off.
Yeah.
And I would always have to like roll down and stretch out my vertebrae, and I would hear it go because it was like, another thing that's a little bit challenging about it is the horn lock. We call it horn locking. At least I did. So you've got the helmet and you've got the camera, and it like arcs around like this to get all of your expressions.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that doesn't look good on anybody. Like there are moments when I would be like,
nobody wants a camera down here.
You don't, and it's down here, and
except
it's not.
for like my dad on Facebook.
Oh,
every picture he has is that angle, and he's going,
Papa.
I'm like, he's a handsome man. Why,
Daddy? Why?
He just doesn't know any better.
Yeah, it's like, you gotta get the. But anyway, so sometimes we have these monitors, right? And like every now and then we're like walking around, but it's just like this head moving, and it's really weird, and it's like really obscured. But that's not the point. The point is that sometimes like I'd want to hug Atreus, or like there was a moment where like Kratos and I would get closer. I'd be like, I know you're a god, not from these realms, but I know it. And I'd have to get close to him, but we'd have to make sure that our horns wouldn't lock. And there were times we would get stuck. That I would say is probably the most challenging thing about the costume, as it were.
Yeah, I guess you have to be more aware of this thing you have sticking out of your head. Is that something that took you a while to get over, or was it easy to jump into? Like you have all these dots on your face, you have to wear a really specific outfit. You can't wear the character's outfit, obviously. And you're on a stage with a bunch of technology around you. That's a very different experience from theater.
Yes, you're right. And I think I would attribute it to my skills in theater to be able to imagine all of that away and see Kratos and feel Freya's outfit, or the sword on my back, or whatever it was. But it was an adjustment period. Clearly it was. I mean, and I'm trying to even remember if I could remember the first time I put, first of all, the Velcro is not comfortable. You're constant, like when you have to pee, it's not pleasant. I mean, you got to take it down, the Velcro's sticking, you got to pee, and then, it's just like a deal. It's a deal, but you get over it. I'm trying to think of that first time on the volume where I had that on my person. I think I probably was like, oh damn, this is a whole new thing. But after a while you get used to it, and I was able to, almost like it dematerialized, and I just felt like we became, and we talk about this a lot, Chris and I, there was such a reverence for the game. Yeah. Like it was bigger than all of us. It really was. And it was like, I don't know how it happened. Like really the gods of war were smiling, because we walked into the volume, and once we were in that zone, and Dory had the no-cut camera, and it was like everyone was like holding their breath. Yeah. So lovely.
How did you feel like leading up to release of Ragnarok? What was that few weeks like?
Oh, so exciting.
Because you worked on it for years?
Yeah. Well,
God of War since 2014,
you
said?
2014, God of War, and then to 2018, and then Ragnarok started 2019, and just about the same amount of time.
A long time.
Little things that you just want to share. You just can't wait. Like I did this really silly, you should see me in a crown video, and please don't tell me.
I saw
it. my friend's like, you have to. Someone's like, it's either going to hit or miss. But I was like, you know what? I was really feeling Freya's empowerment. I was like, you know what? No apologies, guys. Like, I earned it. I got it back. I got the wings. I got my crown. I got my title. But it's not, Freya's not a boastful person. It wasn't about like flexing. It was like the soul of who she was had returned, and I could finally breathe that in. So like when I heard Billie Eilish's "You Should See Me in a Crown," I'm like, that feels like a Freya song. We'll just do a little selfie video.
Yeah, I respect that. Yeah. But yeah, what was the anticipation of it actually coming out like, and how has it been since?
Well, the anticipation was, Huge, mainly because I knew what the story was, and I really felt in my heart of hearts that the gamers that loved it were going to be so happy.
Yeah.
They were going to learn about Mimir. They were going to learn about the Holdra brothers. They were going to learn. They were going to have, Faye. I mean, am I allowed to say it? Am I allowed to say her name?
She's
the game is out.
You're
Like
allowed.
Faye. I mean, this mystical handprint. Like I get so weepy when I hear Memories of Mother by Bear McCreary, and I see that handprint like a mother's love is like nothing else. And you get to see her. And then, you get to learn about Freya's backstory and you get to meet Odin and she gets to take her power back. Like I knew that they were going to appreciate how thoughtful the writers were. I had no doubt it was going to look like a freaking masterpiece painting. I mean, I can't even, the lighting alone is insane to me. Like how do you light a video game? I don't even know how they do it. I mean, then Roth's team, like the animations, the details, the veins in some of the characters' faces. I'm like, that's a vein. I'm sure of it.
I could go off about lighting in video games. It's extremely complicated. Like
how are they
so
doing
they literally put a light in. Like it's basically looks like a light bulb.
Okay.
But you can say what kind of light it is. Like if it's a blanket light, it would just light everything. Sometimes it's a light source, so you have to physically, basically in the engine, put a light inside of a lamp and then describe its intensity. But lighting is one of the most consuming things in a game. I always use the word expensive, but really it's memory intensive.
Okay.
So the more lights you have, the less of other shit you can have.
Interesting.
So lighting is a really, really complicated balance in game development. It's way harder than most people would think. So I appreciate that you were like, that seems hard.
Yes, I think I wept the first. I mean, I'm obviously like a big baby. I cry at everything, which is probably one of the reasons why I was able to have the emotional fragility that Freya required. Not that she's fragile, but just to be able to empathize. You know? But I remember in 2018 when we had our wrap party, I still didn't even know what I was in. Had no idea the effect of this game, because now I understand it. Like I knew what it was like to act it out, and I know what it was like to be an actor. But now I'm thinking, oh my God, these players get to embody Kratos. It's not just sitting in a theater and relating this way. You're like physiologically relating, like becoming this person. And I walked in and it was great. We said, hi, everybody. This is so great. Oh yeah. What's going to happen? No idea. And all of a sudden the characters like popped up on this huge screen. And I was like, holy shit, this is massive. So I kind of liked that I didn't have any preconceived ideas, especially in the first game, because it was all new. Yeah. So the second game, there was more anticipation because I was like, yeah, here it comes, baby. And I did a few photo shoots, sort of like Freya inspired photo shoots.
I saw, that's super cool.
With like the raven wings and stuff. Yeah. I wanted to really just embrace her fullness. And they gave me that in this game. They wrote it that way. And I feel like the fans have been embracing her complete transformation. They've seen her go through it all. And I've really appreciated that journey. So there was like, I can't wait to start interfacing with them. Yeah. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah. Just waiting for it. For God of War 2018, did you have any concept of how popular that game was going to be?
No.
So to you, it was just like, oh, I'm just doing this video game.
Yeah, I'm just in this video game. Yeah. And I was like, oh, there's Teal'c. Oh, I really liked him in Stargate. And by the way, I mean, I tell this story a bit too. Like I was convinced I was going to be fired after the first table read.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I'm sure they were like, look, I don't think they were ever going to fire me. I don't want to put that out there, but I think that I had a learning curve. In fact, I know I did, because I was sitting up against like this behemoth-sized man named Chris Judge, who's like, hello, like boy, like it was so, and it was like resonated everything. I'm like, and then I got Alistair with this Scottish brogue, and then you got Robert Craig doing his thing, and then you've got Alistair, who's like, I was like, oh wait, no, these guys really, they are voiceover actors.
Freya's the most normal, in a way.
There's a voice.
Yeah,
I found her. I had a dream about Han Solo.
Okay.
Did Corey ever tell you the story?
No.
So I wasn't sure if she was poised or regal. She was a goddess and a leader of the Vanir after all. I mean, she is the preeminent goddess of Norse mythology? Yeah. Like she basically is like all 10 Greek goddesses into one. Yeah. The one thing she's not is the goddess of wisdom. Clearly she's made some choices that are, come on, lady. It's true. Yeah. So those were big shoes to fill, but I was finding her. And Corey was so good with me with that. And Matt and Rich and the whole team. And
yeah, I really don't feel like when I'm talking to you, I don't think of FREYA in a crazy way.
yeah.
Like, naturally, you are very different.
Oh, cool.
Which, I mean, maybe you should be an actress. Have you thought about it?
I've been giving it some thought.
Yeah. Look into it.
Think about, well, thank you.
Maybe I could like find a connection.
Please help me out.
Yeah.
I need help. Clearly. No, but one day Corey was like, you know what it is? He's like, you got to add a little Han Solo into it. And I was like, oh. I went home, had my dinner, blah, blah, went to bed, dreamt of Han Solo that night. And like, there were some things that happened with Solo in my dream. Like, there was an integration period. And then I came back on set. I am not joking. Like, she dropped in.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little Han Solo in there. Sprinkle.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, it's like she's got a roguish charm to her on top of everything else, which, yeah. I totally
She's been by herself for 180 years.
Yeah.
And I think she learned, whereas before it was like the leader of the Vanir, and then of course becoming a mother and a wife and all of that. And then it was like, there's a little bit of like, F off energy. Like when she's like, I'm still a god, go away.
Yeah, true.
She got there.
Yeah.
And I finally found her with a little Han Solo.
It's crazy how many creatives get inspired by dreams. It happens all the time.
Yeah. What about you? Have you had a dream that because you're getting into writing and voiceover acting, I'm curious.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been a writer for 10 years now, and I don't think I've ever dreamt anything. Voiceover? Also, no, I wish. No.
What about that? So the character you just embodied, did you have any dreams about her as you were like sort of creating?
I don't think so. I wish, though. It seems like it would be helpful, but I don't really remember my dreams that much.
Oh,
and I look, the struggle I have with acting is like this. I have so many rules because I'm so limited in what I can do, and it took me a long time to learn that. Is like, I can't do it if it's my own accent. And that's a thing I obviously have to figure out. But if it's my own accent, I just sound like me pretending to be someone else.
Sure.
If I'm American or British, I can do it. If it's me, can't. Which is insane.
Yeah.
Like most people are like, oh, I can't do the accent part.
Right.
I can't do it the other way around. Because the minute I put on an accent, I have to become a different person. And I also am just like, as a person who's not very emotional, I'm not good at being emotionally expressive. So basically not a good actress.
I doubt that.
Point.
Hey, listen, not all characters need to cry.
That's the thing is I can do, there's a really specific type that I can definitely do, which is like a slightly Daria-esque, sarcastic, little bit hardened woman. I can do that to a T. And I've done it a couple of times. I'm also a great robot. If you need any robots.
Can I hear your Siri and you can hear mine?
Oh, Siri's a little bit hard because I don't use it. But I mean, okay, I can do like a GPS voice, which is like a turn left in 300 feet.
There it is. Yeah, it's a little staccato. Yeah.
There we go. Do Siri.
Well, mine's British, so.
Oh, good.
Call from Alanah Pearce.
Oh, that is good.
Yeah.
Hey,
Siri, please call Alanah Pearce. Calling Alanah Pearce on mobile. On speaker.
It's very good. FaceTime audio call to mum. That's what mine says.
Mum. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah. It's fun.
Robots are fun. I've done like a lot of like access denied type shit. But
there
I
it is.
I like doing it.
That's in the pocket.
It is fun. But most of it can't do. Anyway.
Yeah.
My next question was going to be, so for all of the characters that you've done, even outside of FREYA, do you have a homework that you give yourself to make sure that you understand that voice? Like, does every character require a ton of effort? Are some of them more natural? Like, what's the process for you figuring out how they speak?
Yeah, that's a very specific question. Well, so FREYA, I found her voice. Once I found her sort of emotional center and her grounding, like honestly, like her like feet on the ground was when the voice got activated. And then, some characters are a lot easier. Like, if I'm doing a comedy, because I've done a few of those, I do sort of play a lot of women who are a bit affected, and so sometimes there'll be a voice that'll come out. I played the mother of a death in Insidious Chapter 2, and that was not my voice coming through. I mean, she was a specter entity, and also just a very tortured woman who was torturing her young son, dressing him up like a little girl. So yeah, this is I do have to find that voice. And again, I think I go back to, I've been doing yoga since 20. I'm a dancer, so a lot of it is like physical. And then the voice gets involved. I am very studious, and you can talk to anybody at Sony Santa Monica Studios of all the notes I would bring in. And I'm very nerdy like that. Like I want to do the research, which is why I thought I'd get fired at the first table read, because I didn't even know what game I was in. Corey, how could you do that to me? We were literally... Everyone says you're a nice guy.
No, we should fire him.
Never heard of him.
Get rid of him.
Who? Never heard of him. Yeah, we like that joke. But I found out literally right before I walked through the doors that I was in God of War. And I still didn't even understand what that meant. I understood a little more what that meant, but I didn't understand like the scope.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the voice, the movement, the body, but a lot of it is also anchored in the backstory. So once I knew she was FREYA, then of course I took to the Google verse. Back in the day, we would get encyclopedias. It was very romantic. But now you just are like, so I was like Norse mythology. And of course I love mythologies because I grew up thinking I was already a fairy of like some capacity or some goddess. Yeah. So, and so I did all that research, and then I learned about some of her traumas. I'm always like, the way into a character, especially an emotional character, but even a character that can be hysterical, is to sort of like, what happened in that childhood house?
What's the defining moment?
What were the defining moments exactly? Was it just one? Maybe it was two. Yeah. What was the parent that they had the rub with? Was it both? Was it a brother? Like, and then of course, it's a lot of therapy to like get honest about my upbringing and what those pains are. Or, sometimes you become the funny one in the family. Sometimes you become the victim in the family. Sometimes you're the hero of the family. And then we play these roles. So who is this character? What was their backstory? And then how can I like infuse, my experience into that?
You said you bring notes. So you're studious. What are the notes? What are you
God, yeah. Again, Chris is just like, I like, I basically printed out maybe like, 30 pages from the internet on Norse mythology, on FREYA. And it's interesting, the prose Edda or the Poetica Edda.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
The Edda.
The Edda.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because is it FREYA with a J?
Yeah.
Is it FREYA without a J? Is it Frigg? The whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on. And so I had to sift through a lot of that. I'm like, you guys, I'm confused, because there's all these different, like, was she Odin's wife, Freyja, Frigg, this, that, the other? And of course, Matt and Rich, like, you're not, like, they're basically one, they're like the brain of the universe. Like you put their, and then there's Corey. He's like, I don't know. There's like a cerebral cortex going
so many
on.
things. You're like, hey, Matt, quick question. And he's like, here you go.
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, no, thank God for that. So yeah, there I was, little nerdy actress, like, ooh, I get to like do this research and really create this character, but based on this lore and mythology. How lovely. Yeah. And so I would just take the notes and then I would build from there. And then at the end of the day, you throw it all out, because then once it's like integrated in your body, at least for me, it's just about being truthful in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So what do I need from Kratos? What do I need from Atreus? What are they giving me in the moment? Because you can think, you can overthink. And of course I can do that because you can tell I'm like, going a million miles an hour, but you can't anticipate what that living human being is going to give you in the moment.
Sure.
And if you can be open to it, that's like the magic stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I feel like that, if you're bogging yourself down in too much preparation, that could completely go out the window, right? Yeah.
I've learned the hard way sometimes.
Right.
I feel like I found a nice balance now in my life with that. At least I think I have in some recent experiences with my characters.
It's something that we all have to figure out in the real world as well.
Yeah.
To be in the moment is a challenge for sure, especially when everyone's got anxiety because the world is terrible.
It's a horrible place.
So off of that, this is a question that I love asking people, is like, do you have any advice for people who are interested in getting into voice acting or newcomer voice actors? Like, what are some mistakes maybe that you made early on that you've learned from, or something that you'd go back and tell yourself when you were first starting out as an actress? What would the thing you'd be like, Danielle, do this better, or stop doing this, or learn this? Is there any like tidbit regarding wisdom?
The first thing that just came to my gut was have your own back. That's coming through right now. I think it's because everyone has a place and everyone has a right to follow their dream.
Sure.
Their passion, their talent, nurture it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of going to school.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of learning your craft, studying those who are your heroes, your role models.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people who truly want you to win. That's a biggie, because as an artist, we're already sensitive beings. We're human. We're not robots, but I mean, clearly Alanah is, but so things hurt.
Yeah.
And it's a really competitive industry. And what I didn't know back then was how to have my own back, how to speak up for myself in situations, how to sometimes let go of friends and people that were not really there to see me win. Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's good advice in general.
It's just good life advice. So like, I can tell you, go to school, study, I mean, look at your setup here, like invest in yourself. Like if you want to be an actor and a voiceover actor, all of it, like you're constantly financially and time and energetically investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Be open to criticism, but also know that you have a point of view. You see?
Sure.
Because you can be so open to criticism where like you actually
lose yourself.
You completely lose yourself. Yeah. And we're insecure people. Like we're insecure because we're human and life can be scary.
Like I feel like there's a thing about actors specifically.
Yeah.
That what you do has to make people insecure because so much of the job, again, I think people think acting is way easier than it is, that I now have a lot more perspective, even just doing this podcast. You get some sides, you read it, you make a character, you submit an audition, and you never even hear back.
That's it.
And they give you 2 fucking days. They don't tell you if there was something wrong with your performance. You're just giving it to people and they're discarding you like it doesn't matter. And then on the day, you have millions of people watching something that you're doing, and you're just constantly getting notes and feedback to build this whole. It just seems like I don't think it's that insecure people get into acting. It's that I think actors have to be insecure because it is. You have to be validated externally to do your job. Whereas like a lot of trades, you don't have to be externally validated. You don't need a director and all these other actors to care what you think. Like if you're doing
a dentist or a doctor. Yeah.
Because you really do have to be validated all the time. It just seems like a lot. Like,
it is a lot. That's why I think every you should get a therapist. Absolutely get a therapist. Like I'm a woman of faith. So like, you know, if that makes sense for you or something where you just feel like, hey, you know what? You're valuable no matter what the fuck happens.
Yeah.
Like you were put here for a reason. I'm like, I'm a Christian now, fucking off, you know, like, no, but it is true. It's like, you have to, that's why I said, have your own back. Like you're valuable no matter what. Now, guess what? You're going to go out there and put yourself out there. You're going to audition. You're going to be rejected. I've been rejected so many times, so much more than I've been validated.
It has to be. Yeah.
The fact that Corey knew I was FREYA, like he says, within the first 30 seconds is a miracle. It's an absolute miracle because I didn't even know what I was auditioning for, but also too, because as an actor, you go into everything feeling like just like you said, you're like, how would they dress, the hair, the makeup, you're getting memorized. Then you're sitting in traffic back in the day when you would go to the audition. But now you got to put yourself on tape. You got to pay for the tape. You got to edit it together. You're
you
literally
have to do 10 jobs. Also, social media is a huge thing now too. Like, I feel like they're like, oh, how many followers do you have? Like that. The fact that plays into it as well is like, you have to be a social media manager and marketing.
It's like, are you kidding me? Wouldn't it back in the day when it was just really about your talent and your work ethic, perhaps, right? But now there's so many other things go into it. Like, we had to give it to the influencer because she had more followers. Yep. But is she an actress? Mm-hmm. Just because you walk and talk doesn't make you an actor. And just because you can pick up a pen and put a word on a paper doesn't make you a writer. There's a craft involved. Yeah. Now, that's not to say, who do you think you are? Like, I would never say that to someone.
Everyone get involved if you want to.
Yeah.
But I think the study thing is a huge one. Like, I do see people all the time ask for advice for acting, and the amount of people who are like, go to school, and people are like, but I don't want to do that. Other than that. Yeah. And you're like, no, go to school.
Right. Yeah. If you just want to be famous, then you can do that on Instagram.
You can do that on Pornhub, man. Just however you want. Go to school. You know?
That was not from me. No, but it's easier. True. Listen, it is a shortcut. That is true. We jest, but you're right. I am a Gen Xer. I was raised in a generation where it was like, I think someone said the other day, like the Xers are grind culture. Sure. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that's what it was, just because instilled in us was just work ethic, like work hard, play hard, like you get the gain, mm-hmm. right? And again, there's that magic part because like we all know that we're not ultimately in control. Sure. Like that's insanity. Like what makes you feel crazy is when you feel you can like white knuckle it. It just never works. Like there's I always call it like, speaking of FREYA, there's one wing of effort. And I can flap it till I'm blue in the face. Mm-hmm. But the other wing is the wing of grace. And that's the one that I don't have any control over. Mm-hmm. But if I'm aware to let that magic come through, to let that perfect timing of things come through, I have found it has given me a lot more peace of mind in my life.
Yeah, also a great tip. Get therapy.
Well, obviously I've done a lot. I mean, I've done, and I've made so many mistakes, sure.
We all do. It's fine.
But isn't that rich? Because you get to channel that into your character, whether you're writing it or doing the voiceover or whatever. So yeah, so have your own back, mental health, emotional health, your tribe of people,
I think that's a really good tip. I'm still learning that right now. I would say like the last several years I've learned, or I'm trying to learn to just cut people off if they're shitty. And sometimes I think it can be really hard to do because I have this thing where I'm always like, oh, but they're going through a tough time. Oh, but you know, it's okay. But if someone's repeatedly shitty, sometimes you have to be like, I don't want to tolerate it anymore. And it's taken me until 29 to finally kind of put that together and still trying to figure it out. And I wish I could have done it a long time ago.
You're way ahead of the curve.
Trying.
Yeah, you are. No, you're super impressive. I was telling Alanah when we were having our coffee downstairs, I was like, the first time I saw you, wait, I can't remember, but you were interviewing Corey and you were with two other dudes.
Podcast Beyond.
There it was. And of course I was like, I was like, oh my God, this game, what's happening? All this stuff. And I remember I was like, just checking you out, like not in that way, but I was like checking out Alanah. I was like, damn, this woman, she's just hanging with the boys. She's totally self-possessed. Yeah.
I vomited in that room in the bin before and after that podcast. Corey and I were out with other people, obviously, until probably 3 a.m. drinking.
Okay.
And so I went home, passed out in the pants I was wearing on that podcast, threw up in the studio, recorded the podcast, threw up again.
Good Lord, lady. Yeah. I'd have never known.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an event because it was GDC, I think, was why Corey was in town, I'm pretty sure. And we were at a diner with Nick Chester, who I believe now works at Epic, and a couple of other people arguing about which is better between Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. So that's context for me seeming cool there.
Big
was
time.
Undercover? Not at all. I was super hungover.
You were so exhausted. You could not be like nonplussed is what they would put as a writer. Nonplussed.
It's not good.
You can't.
Yeah,
well, I would have never known.
Yeah, that's wild. I think I met you at DICE. That's how
you met me at DICE. Yeah. I've met some great leads, like Lucy James is another one that I got to meet at the Game Awards in 2018. I'm excited to see her again, and just some really cool women in this industry. And definitely. I felt like playing Freya was like, I think that these women are going to appreciate
100%.
what they've written and the opportunity that it gave me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for being Freya. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'd say it's the greatest gift of my life. It has been.
Aww.
I'd say it's up there with one of the greatest gifts of my life.
That's awesome. I'm going to take you way back.
Okay.
How did you start acting in the first place?
So I come from a long line of artists. Mm-hmm. So it was in my DNA, like epigenetics and all that nerdy stuff.
It could be more different. My mom is an accountant and my dad was like a boilermaker or a tradesman.
Well, I think that might be where you get your like even keel like vibe too, right? No?
Probably. That I could explain that off camera for a long time. That's why I'm so even. There's a reason for that. But they're both like basically just like middle, lower class, regular old jobs. And my mom's very numbers orientated. My dad writes books. And when I was a kid, I've told this story before, but he wrote this series of kids books for my sister and I. It's called Rosie B, and he wrote all these songs along with it that I could still sing that he never published. It was just for us, which is super cool. He even had art commissioned. So like there's art for Rosie B, this book that my dad has that I know all of that he just wrote for me and my sister. He's not a good writer is the thing.
God bless him. But you loved it as a kid.
Quite bad, actually. It's the stories are good.
Okay, the stories are good.
The writing is bad. So I've always been like, Dad, he's got this one story that I love that I'm like, if you finish this, I will edit it and we can make it work. Like we can make this happen. So that's probably where it came from, but still he's a tradesman. He's currently like a building manager. Like I always feel like the perspective of coming from a line of artists must be very different in a household to, I think, the perspective that I had.
Sure.
It seems weird. I don't think I was super encouraged to be creative as a kid. Like I don't think they were against it, but it was never like an important thing. And I feel like it must have, I don't know, it must be nice.
It didn't feel like, well, there's part of the family trade. You know, that's what we breed in this family. No, that wasn't. So my aunt followed a modeling career at around 17 and became a pretty prominent model at the time. Christina Ferrari came out here, had a career. Then my dad's aunt, my great aunt Helen, who God rest her soul, just passed away. She, being Crosby, it discovered her because she was a performer and a singer. So one Italian family came down from
Wait,
Tacoma.
these aren't
Yes.
related.
No, these are my mom and my dad. This is how it was in my blood.
Ah.
So my dad's great aunt, like the whole Italian family, moved down from Tacoma, Washington to LA, Hollywood.
Yeah.
My mom, who was living in Cleveland, they came out from Cleveland to chase Hollywood. And that's how my parents met.
Wow.
At a little grocery store called the Carmel Market. I mean, someone has to write a movie because this stuff doesn't happen anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I just got chills. Like, that is really cute.
Yeah, two Italian families coming together and having success in the industry. So I say that and I say it a little bit like not fully removed, but it's in my blood. But it wasn't like I was born into a family where it was like, the door's open, Danielle, right this way to CAA.
Sure.
Like, we're going to put you in, kid. Like, I have definitely worked, but it was always encouraged and supported. And we're a family of entrepreneurs and artists.
So does that mean like when you were younger, you were exploring drama even at school?
Yes.
You were in like plays at school? Gotcha.
Okay. So yeah, I'm like long-winded as fuck. I was like, wait a minute. The answer is it was in my blood. At about 4, my mom showed me The Wizard of Oz. Clearly, I needed to be Dorothy. I asked my entire family to go into the backyard and reenact the entire movie. Everybody was game. I had my little basket and my little stuffed animal Toto.
That's amazing.
And at that point, I was like,
do you have any pictures of that?
I wish. I
would
think
like to see it.
I'll bet you there could be something I could find.
Oh my God.
And I just knew, I was like, this is my world, people.
That's awesome.
And that was it.
So it was basically like that was the job that you wanted the whole time.
From day one.
Damn, that's awesome. Like, I feel like it's a lot of people struggle to find themselves for a long time. And actually, I don't think that's that uncommon with actors though, you know? Like, I think that, I know Rahul's the same. He, from a kid, wanted to be an actor, and that's all he ever wanted to do.
He's so good.
Trying to channel towards it. He's all right.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
We like him.
Whatever.
The accent is nice.
Yeah, it's the accent.
I'm a sucker. I'm a total Anglophile, like unabashed.
I love
like,
the British accent.
I just gotta live in London. I mean, that's like when we were there in the BAFTAs at 2019. I was like, this is my place. These are my
I've never
people.
been.
Come on.
Even though half of my family is British, meaning that I could get a passport. Yeah, I still can super easily. I could live there fine, but I've never been.
Okay. Well, 2023.
Yeah.
Come on.
My football club, Liverpool, I would really love to go see them play. I've been wanting to do that for a really long time. So I have plenty of reasons to go there. Just never been.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I think you're going to thrive there. I can see.
I'm sure I'd love it. I have no doubt.
Burberry coat and your scarf and... Right after the BAFTAs, which was totally incredible. I mean, what an honor, and like just almost like otherworldly to like be a part of that. And I remember being on that carpet with them, and I was like, this is like living a fairy tale. Like, it felt so surreal, but also it's like two parts. One feels earned because I know how hard I worked for it.
For sure.
But then the other part of it is just, again, it's that grace part. It's like, this is a complete gift that I'm like bowing and I'm kneeling and I'm like, thank you, God, for this moment in my life. Like,
I feel the same way about the same studio in that, like, I've been writing my whole life. I went to school to study writing.
Yeah.
I've been a professional writer for 12 years total now, and I worked my ass off to get here, but I'm still like, holy shit, I'm here.
You are at the pinnacle. The mountaintop of video game writing.
All the time, I'm like, I can't believe they pay me. I feel like I should be paying them to let me work there. Like, all the time, I'm like, I just get to ask anybody questions about any of this all the time. It's 2 years and I still feel that way. So I don't know if it'll ever stop feeling that way.
Exactly.
Having the same experience. I'm like, I know I worked super hard. I know I deserve to be here, but also, oh my God, so thankful I'm here.
Right. Yeah. You're like a little weak in the knees and a little trembly. Yeah. I feel that often.
Every time I go into the office, which I do, fairly often, I'm still like, cool. Look at this cool office. Oh my God.
I have a laminate. Like, they know me here.
My name tag? That's crazy.
That's how it would feel going into Disney animation.
Oh yeah.
I got to help the writers, not as a writer, but I voiced Elsa during the exploration of Frozen 2.
Gotcha.
So like, yeah, Idina's not going to come in every time they're trying to figure out, does the scene work or not?
Gotcha.
And working that Academy Award-winning team and walking into Disney animation, I would literally pinch myself every time. Yeah. And I would try to play it cool, like, but I don't think I'm a fangirl at the end of the day. Like, I'm so nerdy, and I'd be like, cool guys, it's really cool to be here.
Disney?
Wait,
is that how you pronounce it?
Is that what it is? Yeah, I've heard of this, like, ice making queen. No, but I mean, there were moments where I would be acting out these scenes and all of us would have tears in our eyes. Like, wow. And that was really powerful. It was like, yeah, no, I know that this is Idina's, and I have I have the utmost respect for her. But I also got to be somewhere a part of that journey.
Yeah.
And that was a huge gift.
That is awesome. Yeah. And I did you have any goals when you first started out as an actor of like a thing that you wanted to do? Because I feel like for a lot of people, Disney is probably a big one.
I really want to voice my own Disney character. I mean, like, I feel like that's where the roads are gonna lead, and at some point it will make sense to do that. I sing musical theater, I have all that stuff, so I know how to put that on. And I just, again, it's the trust thing. I mean, I want everything yesterday. I mean, I don't know who doesn't. Maybe it's like you know, you have that ambition and that desire, and you're like, I got so much in me. But then there's also that wing of grace of like, all right, well, you know what? It will happen at the right time, and it will always surprise me. It will always surprise you, and then you'd be like, oh, that's the thing. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. So to again take you back from it makes sense how you wanted to become an actor. When you were turning it into a career, what were the steps? Like, you went to school, you wanted to be an actor the whole time. How did you actually turn it into a job? Because that process is a lot more complicated than a lot of other disciplines.
Exactly right. Like when you graduate high school and they don't teach you how to balance a checkbook. You're like, that would have been really helpful.
Taxes?
What? Oh, wait, I can't just charge up this credit card and magically dad's not going to pay.
Doesn't make sense.
Some daddies do.
I wish.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, daddy. So graduated, got my Bachelor of Arts, felt really prepared creatively, but had no idea how to broach the business aspect of it. And I found a company, I don't know if they're still around, called AIA Actors.
That sounds familiar.
Oh, shoot.
Do you want me to Google it?
Yeah, AIA Studios, AA Studios or AIA Studios. And what they did was they were that intermediary, like they were sort of like the bridge between, hey, I just graduated theater school. I don't know what.
AIA Actors Studios.
There it is, AIA Actors Studios.
Permanently closed.
Oh, you know what?
Apparently.
But I think that there's some organizations out there that like, so look, like.
It could just be The Office says that though.
Yeah.
I don't know. They exist.
Right. You can do blind submissions. Maybe you have a great look. Maybe I tell people this all the time. Get your iPhone and shoot a short.
Totally.
Empower yourself out the gate. Yeah.
That latest iPhone has like an auto, not autofocus because that's normal. It does like the portrait mode, but with videos now. It's incredible.
Oh.
I shot this, I just like recorded something that Rahul he was building a desk, and I recorded it, and I could put the footage up. Just this is like short quality, but it's just an iPhone of him building. And then we just edited it with music.
Look at him, he's a craftsman.
Well, yeah, he definitely is. But like, isn't that pretty?
It looks fantastic.
You're like, damn, this phone, like this, I think the one that came out this year, I was like, you could absolutely shoot a brilliant shot with that. Like,
right.
And I think that's been my biggest piece of advice for anything creative ever, or throughout my career, is just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. It doesn't matter if it's bad.
No.
Because I started making short films. And my first one was an exercise in, I only have a day. It's COVID. So it was me and one other person. That's it. And only one set. And I was like, these are my restrictions. What can I create? And I made something. And I think what I made is like, not a compelling story, but it was an exercise in, can we make this with these restrictions? And I think that almost makes you get more creative in a lot of ways.
100%.
And just do it. You could do it tomorrow. You could do it in a day. Like, just do it.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's true.
So you're laying bricks.
Yeah.
You're literally building your foundation. Like, yeah, I say get a theater training. That's what I would tell you. But, you know, there's lots of great teachers out there in LA. There's lots of great, you know, acting for the camera, learning. I mean, that was a big adjustment, right? Like in the theater, you're a bit bigger with your voice and your expressions. And then, you know, when you're in film and it's right here, you know, just to look up can tell you.
Where does video games land in that? For your expressions?
Well, there is twofold, right? Because part of it is physical. They want to see the way FREYA moves in these scenes, but then the camera is literally right here. Yeah. So just a quiver of the lip, you know, or just like the tear that comes down, or just the, you know, just the exhale, all of it's literally being captured, which actually gave a lot of freedom, because I felt like it doesn't matter how big I go or how small, I'm going to be captured in this entire take with the no-cut camera, right? How brilliant, you know, Dory is and all of them for creating that feeling of like...
Extremely difficult.
We're pulling you by the lapels of your shirt and we're not letting you go for 40 hours. Yeah. Oh, my Lord. So yeah, so take the workshops, learn the techniques of acting for the camera, get in the theater, get into voice and movement, get into yoga, do all these things. As far as like finding an agent, that is a hurdle. That's a tough one, right? Sometimes you can ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you can submit a scene, get some good scenes of yourself on tape. Now again, there really aren't a lot of excuses for being able to emancipate yourself that way. Whether or not the door opens is some people say luck, you know, like I think it's life path stuff. And I think it's like, you know, but you got to put it out there. And like you said, Alanah, like maybe it's going to be shit for a minute. Like, and you can objectively like almost remove yourself and be like, okay, that's working. That's not working. You know, work with yourself, like love yourself enough to be like, yeah, I'm going to just finish this. And that's what I want to say. You said something so important. When you finish something, you're actually building self-esteem. Right?
Yeah.
And it could, and you could look at it and be like, you know what? Yeah, I like kind of like it, but I'm not crazy about
Even
it.
If it wasn't good, you have the accomplishment of the fact that you did it.
You
right?
finished
you
it. Yeah. It's do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah. All these things matter. I wish I had like the genie in the bottle and been like, CAA, you know, they're like, enter. I always imagine them like the Golden Gates, like enter. We've got it all taken care of from here. And you're like, phew, because I'm exhausted.
That was hard.
Oh, it was really hard to carry. Everyone disliked that.
Yeah.
That journey was, woo.
Yeah.
The pilgrimage of an actor. It's a journey. It's a journey.
For sure. Yeah. So I guess like something that I've seen people talk about doing is submitting just their own self-tape of like a Shakespearean monologue that resonates with them highly, and then they submit that, and literally people have gotten agents that way. Like I guess you just have to be creative, find options, and then you can just submit things by doing the research to an agent who's looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of times it's not personal. Like, oh, we've got someone like you. And that's true. It's like they have a certain amount of hours during the day. The second that you can really embrace that it's not personal, because it feels so personal. Like you said, it's like, oh my God, I didn't even hear anything. I had tears in that audition. I was brilliant. And like crickets. But then that's great advice. I imagine that now. Yeah. You can just put your best foot forward, make sure you're well lit, make sure you're well heard. Certainly don't turn in shit. You can make something and learn from it. But what, you never get a second chance for a first impression. And that really does apply a lot of times. So yeah, do your strength, put your best foot forward, and it'll come around. It'll come around.
So my last question, because I gotta let you go.
Yeah, you do. I gotta get to Santa Monica.
You do. It won't take that long.
Okay.
You'll be fine. My last question was going to be, we've spoken about a lot of, the struggles and challenges. Just what's your favorite thing about being an actor? What's the number one favorite thing?
Getting to express aspects of myself that I don't feel as liberated to do in real life. What is it? IRL in real life. It was very cool. Like
it was very cool of you.
I didn't stumble at all on that one.
Very great delivery. Super cool.
Wow. I feel like I'm being pandered to. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get to play pretty powerful women, sometimes formidable. I always do try to find their vulnerability and their the flaw or the wound. I think it's really important. A lot of times, you can play what's on the page and you can it's like putting white on white. Like you can just really bite into the words, but that's not quite likable. One of the things that I've enjoyed a lot is by playing these, I call them complex women, women with complexities. I don't think that they're heroes or villains, but you never approach a character. You can hear anybody, like you don't, Christopher Waltz, like, right. Like in Inglourious Basterds, like you're not approaching a character like you're the villain. You are the hero of the story. And sometimes that means you are a psychopath, like depending on what the character is, but like, why is that person that way? And so the short version is the psychology behind it all. And then the ability for me to exercise aspects of myself that I didn't necessarily feel like were safe to express in my own life.
For sure. Yeah. You almost get to have like a little bit of therapy as a job.
A little therapy.
Writing is super simple.
And some artistic lessons. Yeah. And writing, oh my God, writing is, first of all, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do.
It's not easy.
But it's also so empowering because you are the god of that universe.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a small follow-up question, even though I said I wouldn't.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So does all of the, digging into trauma and where the characters come from, Do you look at people in your real life differently? Like, do you ever meet somebody and think about them in terms of like
100%.
character? Interesting.
I will tell you that there's an empathy. Actions can be heinous.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we don't like actions that hurt other people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you when your life is studying characters and you got to understand why you're saying this. Now, of course, you're saying it because the writer wrote it, but you have to understand as a character, like, why am I saying that? So sometimes someone can be a real dick and you're like, God, I wonder what his dad was like to him.
I do it all the time as a writer too.
Yeah. I wonder what that was like. You know, sometimes you don't like the behavior, but that you can have a little compassion sometimes.
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty valuable.
It's a great note to end on. Have a little compassion sometimes.
Just a little compassion.
The Aldous Huxley, famous writer, he wrote Brave New World. Is probably the one he's most famous for. He said he was trying his whole life to figure out what the meaning of life was. And then he got to the end of his life and he figured it out. He was like 70 and he was like, it's embarrassing. The meaning of life is embarrassing, but I figured it out. Be a little kinder. That's what he thought the meaning of life was. Just be a little kinder. That's it. It was like, okay, that's what he figured out at 70. This is a guy who was like nominated for various like humanitarian awards and wrote 70 books, super famous. Be a little kinder. That's it.
That's a beautiful
Isn't
note
it?
to go out on.
Be a little kinder. Anyway, thank you for joining me, Danielle. Where
this was my
can
pleasure.
people find you?
It's pretty easy. It's always at Danielle Bisutti.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, that's not a very common last name. So I didn't have to put a 1 or a 2 or, you know, a symbol.
Social media privilege.
Yeah, right. There aren't a lot of Bisuttis out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'd love to interface with you there. And thank you to the fans who love this game and who have in particular been really supportive of FREYA and her journey. Like, it means so much.
Awesome. I will leave a link in the description so you can check out Danielle, talk about FREYA and how much you love her, as we all do, of course.
Thank you.
See you all next time.
Bye. Pleasure. Isn't she amazing?
I'm going to cut that bit.
She's my favorite robot.